First, an intro, if the stars aligned and you're watching this from a YouTube recommendation. As of the making of this video, the #1 best game ever made, Pavlov VR, does not have weapon skins, yet. I decided to capitalize on this by making one early, or at least trying to. I created a Discord server with the intent of creating a community mostly dedicated to skin making and implementation. Once real skins are a thing, the server will focus more on the creation of skins rather than our own custom implementation. Also, weapon skins are just as possible on both Pavlov House, which is the actual name for the Steam version, and Pavlov Shack, but the server is mostly made of shackers. Now that that's out of the way, here's the part I'll link in the Discord. The standard for making gun skins is Adobe Substance Painter. You have 3 options. You can get the monthly license for $49.99 a month, a one-time payment of $150 to receive updates for a year, or you can get it indefinitely and for free with the student license. I'd like to make it clear that I do not condone any type of piracy or lying on online forums, but I will point out the interesting and totally unrelated fact that the system is automated, and your submission is never checked by a real person.
Pause. So Adobe suddenly took over the education license and stopped new Substance accounts from being created. Judging from my reluctant peek, the process looks different. You may have to actually get a real photo of school identification, since I received a frightening screenshot that suggests the process is now regulated, at least to some extent. If you can't get the license for some reason, I feel confident that a quick peek around the internet would provide some resources.
Once you have your license, through whichever method you use to get it, download Substance Painter for your operating system. There is some kind of a launcher I just figured out, but I'm pretty sure the version of Substance Painter in it is outdated. Pick your gun from the resources channel and download what you need. You don't need the render PNG, and unless you have a reasonably weak computer, you don't need anything in the baked folder. Sign in with your account you should have made, and eventually you should be able to get to this screen. Drag and drop your gun FBX. Substance Painter is basically Photoshop in 3D. Everything works in layers and masks. The asset browser is a handy library of a whole bunch of stuff, like brushes, materials, and smart materials. If you add something to your project, it goes into here. Smart materials use generated textures containing things like edges, shadows, thickness, and the direction of faces to make a realistic material. To use these generated textures, you have to either generate them yourself with Ctrl-Shift-B, or import the ones so helpfully included with each gun in their baked folders. Next to the Layers tab, you can scroll down and drag and drop the proper images to be used as your generated maps, free of generation. A good place to start is with the original textures, as reference if nothing else. Add a fill layer, and set the base color to base color and normal to normal. This wacky looking ORM map has the occlusion, roughness, and metallic, but you can't use it in Substance Painter unless you have the respective red, green, and blue channels in the image separated. If I remember to, I'll separate it for you all in the Google Drive folders. If not, you can do it yourself with either Photoshop or Photopea, the free web version. Open your image, disable the other channels, and select all with Ctrl-A and copy with Ctrl-Shift-C. That'll copy the channel, which you can post as a new lone layer and export. Again, the red channel is ambient occlusion, which you don't really need for the record. The green channel is roughness, and the blue channel is metallic. As for the painting part, whether it be in a mask or a paint layer, you have a few options. The first of which being normal brush painting, with which you could pick from a bunch of different brushes in the asset browser, or you could add your own images and paint with them like stamps. The Properties panel has all your brush settings, including things like projection, rotation, size, and other brush-specific settings. If you want to slap on an image, make a fill layer, link it, and change the projection to planar if you want to stamp, or triplanar if you want it to cover everything like a coat. Anyways, most of you won't use brush painting very much. A more commonly used tool, especially due to the non-organic nature of guns, is the polyfill, which can fill an individual face, mesh, or UV island. At this point, go ham. Once you know the basics, Substance Painter is pretty intuitive to use. If you don't know something, you can either Google it or just ping me in the Discord. My final advice is that you should always check what you have selected, both in the layer stack and the texture set list. Also, Pavlov does not have height map support, so you'll want to check if you have any height data you don't want to lose. You can convert the height to a normal map with this handy little filter here. Finally, by default, Substance doesn't have an emissive channel, but you can add one yourself here. Once you're happy and ready to upload or test, press Ctrl-Shift-E to open the export menu. Set your resolution and disable the height map and OpenGL normal map. If you don't see an OpenGL normal map, disable the regular one and keep the DirectX. As for resolution, 1024 is usually just fine, especially if the gun's material is split into two parts.
In order to be used, a skin has to have base color, normal, and ORM, and optionally an emissive map. In the description below and pinned in the resources channel is a website for creating ORM maps quickly. Mixed AO stands for Mixed Ambient Occlusion, and the exported texture with that name goes in the occlusion slot. Metallic and roughness are self-explanatory.
There are two ways as of right now to see your skin in-game. The main way is through custom maps. If you know how, it'll be much more immediate to do it yourself. You don't have to know blueprints, there's a sample skin changing cube in the modkit channel that you can use. If you don't know how and don't care enough to learn, you can post it in the Skin Showcase channel. And I have plans on making a Pavlov Shack server that gives everyone free access to all the skins. The not-so-main way is quite dangerous territory, so I won't be going over it in detail. This way, however, is completely global and not confined to certain maps. If you have a special occasion, you can message me over Discord and I'll likely set it up for you. Now off I send you to make something amazing. Once my overly perfectionistic mind feels at least a little satisfied with how prepared this server is, I have plans of doing all kinds of cool stuff, like maybe competitions, events, and collaborations with the Champions League or Pavlov Score servers. This server could turn into something pretty cool, but all that relies on you, the community. I've been Chalk, and you've been cool.